All right, Battletech enthusiasts, how do we speed up the game? I'm working my way through some mailbag, working my way through some feedback here on the channel, and I was asked, when playing a game of Battletech, is it possible to get that experience? How can we speed up the game so it doesn't take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours of Battletech? Let's build that checklist. Let's jump in. Let's explore it. Now, my average Battletech game is not necessarily going to be equal to your average Battletech game because it's a question of experience and time. Most of my games of Battletech, they're about 5 hours or so. You know, they're a Thursday evening. We started around 5 and, we go to about 9 or 10. We play about 3, 4, or 5K battle value. We also have experience with the rules in that we know the flow of the rules. There's still things from time to time we have to look up because either I forget or we're just like, hey, what about this? We want to do something crazy on the tabletop. We go to the Total Warfare. So the first aspect in playing a Battletech game as efficiently as possible, condensing that time, is not so much memorizing the rules, but being able to understand the flow of the rules, being able to understand, okay, initiative, then we go to movement, then we go to declare targets, then we go to the physical phase, physical attacks. Moving through from that perspective keeps the game on track. And then when you have to look something up, you go and look it up, as opposed to just memorizing the rules, because that's not efficient. We want to play games. Another thing that I'll do if we're in the shooting phase, and I'm taking my shots and we're going back and forth and someone has a rules question, because we're friends playing, I can continue my phase while they're looking something up. So if we often play and we come to a rules question and it's my turn to do something, I'm moving 4 or 5 mechs because I've won initiative, and there's a question, my opponent will look it up. So I can continue moving the mechs and keeping the game going. If they're moving their machines or they're, handling their shooting aspects of the game after they've declared targets and they have a question, I'll look it up. They can continue shooting and kind of recording the hits and moving it that way. So keeping the game moving and flowing is important. The second is, of course, battle value. I mean, this is true of any war game. The more toys you bring, potentially the longer the game is going to be. And I can't say what a standard game of Battletech is. The game seems to be set up for a lance, 4 mechs, a lance and a couple of vehicles. That leads to maybe, 2 or 3 hours of Battletech. As you start to pile on more and more, and I like to play with all my toys, we all do, the game is naturally going to get bigger. While it seems that if you reduce the size, that reduces the tactical choices and it makes things vulnerable to a very swingy type game. What I mean by that is if you take 1 mech and you duel back and forth, I mean, we can play that, but 1 mech versus 1 mech is just a lot of running and jumping and shooting and missing. 2 mechs gets a little more interesting, but now if I get lucky or I corner you and I blow up 1 mech, I have a tremendous advantage. I like to play at a minimum 4 machines. Now, we could say, hey, it's lower battle value, so we got 4 lights. It's a recon lance. It could be a mixed lance. I try to get enough battle value at a minimum 1 lance, a heavy and assault, or 2 heavies, a medium, and a light. And we can play it, and we can push it forward from that. So look to, if you're looking to speed up the game, if you're looking Battletech 2 hours, keep it to a lance. Next, of course, is the physical maps. We explored this the other day on the channel, pushed it up to my archive. The size of the map, whether it's hex maps or a wargaming table, it makes the game more fun. It makes the game more dynamic, literally. But it gives you more options. It can prolong the game. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. If we're on a big city-type fight board and I'm moving up one alley and all of a sudden you're counterattacking, I can choose to say, you know what, I'm going to withdraw and I'm going to try and attack on the other side. Or I'll drop off the Battle Master to hold you, and I'm going to outflank. That adds 3 or 4 or 5 more game turns. Tactically, it's great, but that's 4, 5, or 6 more game turns. If you play on one hex map, it's artificially forcing you to meet up. It's artificially forcing you. The smaller the map, skirmish, the more dynamic the game is going to be. It's going to force you to get close, to fight it in, and to do what you have to do. So if we want to keep the game moving fast, consider a lance or 2 lances and a hex map. Generally the rule I find, and again, this is just my local meta, 1 lance equals 1 hex map. So you could do 1 lance, 1 hex map, play a very, very quick and fast game. The next aspect to play with, and this rule is optional, but it makes sense in the narrative, force withdraw. Once things, because remember, battle mechs, it's not so much in the succession era after these wars. It's kind of like, I want to say, a Cold War. It's kind of like border skirmishes or incursions. There are mass scale mech battles, but it's more back and forth. So losing a mech is a big deal, even though new ones are being produced and factories are automated and there's different degrees of mechs. The last thing the narrative says is you want to be the dispossessed. If you lose your mech that you inherited through your family, you're literally like modern Knights of the Realm. We don't want to go there. So in the rules, it's baked in that once things go to internal center torso, left torso, right torso, now there's a chance of your machine being crippled. You will withdraw from the battle. And often if you're withdrawing, you might be able to shoot, but you have to pull back directly to the closest table edge. Now, of course, as a light mech, you're going to get punched through to internals quicker and faster than a heavy or a medium or an assault. But that's another way to potentially play the game to speed it up. Converse is a lot of games that I play, we do kind of fight to the end. We fight to the death. It's a little more dynamic. It's a little more exciting. We kind of build in the narrative where things have been cleared. This is take this mission at all cost, no retreat, no surrender. Do or die. And there's an excitement in that, but these machines, Battletech, the mechs, can take a tremendous amount of tabletop punishment. I mean, I had an awesome mech, literally an awesome, both arms blown off, sensor hit, engine hit, into internals, smoking, leg damage, could barely move. I'm shooting 1 PPC. That's it. It's generating massive heat. I've got sensor damage. I don't even know what I need to hit you. I'm going to need 12s. It's just crazy. The mech is still up. The mech is still fighting. And the game ended. It was still alive. That mech will just be scrapped. It'll take me generations to try and rebuild such a mech, given the battle value damage and the C-bills that I would require. We would just scrap it and move on. But that's another way to potentially play, to have the force withdrawal to pull off the map as opposed to fighting to the death. You do that, you get some familiarity with the game, then you can quickly and efficiently play Battletech. The last piece that I would recommend, and not everyone will have this, but it's good to have based on the starter set or to be able to print up, what I call a mech cheat sheet. These are those 2-sided sheets that hard cardboard or printed up and laminated, where it shows you on one side, okay, here are the phases of the game, here's the movement modifiers, like a board game, the summary of rules on the back of the book. To have these 2-sided sheets that show you, one side's movement, here's the modifiers, here's the different things that stack, here's the different ways of moving through terrain, and on the other side, here's the range of weapons, here's the various profiles, here's the hit locations, here's the damage, so that you can go back and forth and you can look really, really quick while it's your turn to calculate these things. Having that little flippable cheat sheet is like, absolutely Battletech 101. Do those things even with making tactical decisions and enjoying a relaxed game where it's not rushed, where you can kind of move around and see different things. I think absolutely would be doable easily in 2 hours. 1 lance, 1 hex map, playing with fourth withdrawal, or maybe not even, just fight to the death. I could see it in that perspective. But as soon as you start to adjust any of these variables up, the game is going to take longer and longer and longer.